Still on the hashtag End Bad Governance protest, a coalition of civil society groups for national stability and cohesion have appealed to Nigerians aggrieved by the country's current hardship to be patient with President Bola Tinubu's administration as it seeks solutions to challenging times. The group expressed concern that the planned protest would lead to anarchy, urging well-meaning Nigerians to support the administration in its quest to build a stable and united country. Well, joining me on the program right now to discuss this is Debo Adeniran, the Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. Also, I have Mark Adebayo, but I believe Mark will be joining us, in the course of the conversation. Debo, thank you for joining. Quickly, what do you make of the What do you make of the planned protest for August?
Well, thank you very much. Every Nigerian has the right to protest when he's dissatisfied with the way his life is being administered. And it is a fundamental human right that you can associate. You have the right to freedom of expression. You have the right to freedom of peaceful assembly. What you don't have the right to do is to assemble with a view to committing treason. And I believe that the protest will not lead to anything that could be construed or misconstrued to be attempt to topple a democratically elected government. So once that is out of it, then it is within the purview of fundamental rights and freedoms for people to assemble, express themselves, and make demand on their government. That is legitimate. And I believe that those who are organizing, if they really organize it well, they have good reason to organize. But their demand should be well articulated. Their demand is not yet clear to some of us. And that is why some of us may not participate in it.
Okay, by their demand not being articulated and not well spelled out, would you be rather specific as to some of the items you might, be looking out for to say, you know what, if this is on the agenda, I will be part of it?
You see, when people talk about bad governance, that is too general, and you cannot generalize based on sentiment or emotions. If they had said that, okay, subsidies should be returned on petroleum products, on electricity, on food, on education, on all other things, and that soft loans should be provided for those who want to establish a cottage industries and so on and so forth. That would have been legitimate enough for one to say that, okay, the government, the process is to present your demand to the government through a particular set of leadership of the movement that is organizing the protest. Before you go on the street, you ought to have made that demand on government. Now, if they don't respond, you look for a way of getting to the National Assembly, because National Assembly plays oversight functions on the MDAs. So you are supposed to write to the National Assembly that, look, you have made this demand on the executive. They are not responding well in a way that you will be satisfied, that will assuage your fears. Then the National Assembly will be expected to play oversight function on the executive, insisting that these demands are legitimate. If our constituents are asking for all of these legitimate, demand, then it is the executive is duty bound to fulfill those demands. To actually pacify the constituents by ensuring that those demands are met. And some of us have redefined democracy away from Lincolnian government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which is nebulous and meaningless to many people. We are saying that democracy should be that government that satisfies the needs of majority of the people. That will be clear enough. The needs of majority of us are not being satisfied. Yes, granted that.
But I think that, of course, that sort of encapsulates the whole end bad governance, campaign that is forthcoming. For instance, a while ago, I want to believe that you must have joined in by then. I had a conversation with the convener of Revolution Now, that's Omoyele Sowore, and there is a 15-point demand titled non-negotiable demands, and part of it even talked about the reinstatement of corruption-free subsidy regime, which you mentioned. So I think for many of these groups, it's pretty clear. So I throw that question back to you. Where do you, as a rights person yourself, where do you stand in all of this?
Yes, even if the demands are genuine, the way the protest is organized, there should be preceded by consultation. Consultation should not be narrowed down to some of those people that you think may not raise questions or may not make suggestions. Consultations have to be wide, and you have to aggregate opinion of several people on strategies and tactics, okay, to be employed in executing the protest. Protest is not just marching on the streets. You have to, I have told you now that the first precondition will be to approach the executive to make all of these demands on them. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to Sowore when he was itemizing their demands, but I am not aware of it. So if I'm not aware of it, I'm not aware of the strategy, I'm not aware of the tactics, I'm not aware of the method, I'm not aware of entry point, I'm not aware of exit points. How will I just join such a movement blindly? No. We ought to have agreed that, okay, these are the strategies to adopt. This is the demand. If we approach the executive, don't do anything about it, we will move a step further. We go to the legislature. If the legislature also ignores, we give them ultimatum that we will go on the street. We will appeal to Nigerian people. Now, before we go on the street, we agree on meeting points. We agree on the roadmaps.
Okay.
On if
Debo, I'm sorry, I might just need to interrupt you, for a bit there. I want to bring in Mark Adebayo. Mark Adebayo is actually the national spokesperson for Coalition of United Political Parties. Mark, thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
All right. Now, quickly, what's your take on the planned protest?
Well, generally, all of us know that in terms of governance deliverables in this country, things are not looking up, things are not going well. Not just with this administration, but even from independence till now. Nigeria has not been lucky to have that kind of premium leadership that is able to put the interests of the people as a major policy of government. Most of them have come and gone. Those who are there now, only after themselves, only after their interests. So it is I think we should be able to get a few fundamentals right in the first instance. The citizens have a right to protest against bad governance, against corruption, and against unemployment, hunger, and crisis in the land. I mean, the citizens have constitutional right to protest against what they believe is not working for them in their country. However, all these have to be situated within the purview of responsibility of leadership in terms of the fact that a protest or a demonstration against bad governance must be organized in such a way as to not lead to arson or treason. In recent memory, we saw what happened with the NSAS. Unfortunately, the NSAS movement came. A lot of lives were lost, a lot of property were destroyed, arson committed, a lot of things happened. Unfortunately, up to today, the factor that caused and led to that crisis has never been resolved. Till today, the Nigerian police have remained as brutal as ever. They have remained as unjust as ever. There is extortion have remained on our roads, on our streets, and a lot of illegal detentions and the rest of that have continued. So, but this protest must be tailored towards achieving particular objectives, which I believe Showore has stated in outline is in all the things I've seen that he has read out in the media. However, we must be mindful of the collateral damage that an uncoordinated and unorganized protest can cause the country, can cause the nation, can cause the people. Because at the end of the day, we do not want to achieve something that will now be that is the people that will now suffer more. As a student of revolutionary history, I do know that the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and the 1920, counter-revolution, progressive revolution still in the same Russia. At the end of the day, it is the elite class that still took over. The Arab Spring that just went by, we saw what happened. A lot of people, in fact, some countries have failed, like Libya, even like Syria, and the rest of that. What did the people achieve? At the end of the day, they did not achieve what they really wanted to achieve, because the same set of people, the same set of rulers, the same set of oppressors took advantage of those protests and are still in power today. So we need to be mindful of all those facts and sit down and prepare and plan well to ensure that at the end of the day, at the end of the protest, at the end of the demonstrations, the citizens are able to be the ones to gain from these protests. I want to be educated on how they are organizing these things, how they want to ensure that it will not lead to arson, how they want to ensure that it will not lead to treason or treasonable felony, and so on and so forth. For me, I agree that this country, we are being given the short end of the stick in terms of governance deliverables in this country. And that the people, if the people refuse to speak up, if the people refuse to protest, these guys will sit pretty in governance and in government and will not do something. We have been taken for granted for a long time, and people are getting angry. If the government will just listen to the people, the government knows what is going on in the market. They know that the food is out of the reach of Nigerians. They know that people are hungry. A hungry man is an angry man. They know that education is getting out of the reach of the people. They know that medical treatment is getting out of the reach of the people. They know that housing is getting out of the reach of.
Mark, are you there? I think we lost connection.
End of the stick in terms of
Mark.
deliverables in this country.
I'm sorry, Mark. I might just need to come in here. Thank you so much. But let me go back to Debo. Debo, with reference to what we saw during the NSAS protest and the eventual outcome, are there lessons learned? Are there takeaways that maybe we can learn from and maybe adapt in this forthcoming protest by some groups?
Thank you very much. The first lesson we should learn is what Mark referred to, that at the end of the day, police brutality is still there. But then it's still the same political elite that still, took advantage of that protest to entrench themselves in power. If you look at even those that were targeted for attack, gained public sympathy at the end of the day, and they got back to power. Most of the protests that we had in this country had not favored those who organized it. That is the unfortunate thing, because it made it to sound as if people had protests in order to become assistants to the same political class that have been very oppressive on us. So if we hold another set of protests, you look at the array of people that are mouthing the agenda for the protest. Some of them are direct politicians who contested the election but lost. Some of them are followers of some politicians. Some of them are sympathizers of some of what is going on, some of what we are criticizing. Some of them contributed to the rot that we want to eliminate from our political space. So we cannot rely on some of those who claim leadership of the protest. And that is a lesson, because all the gains of NSAS had been subsumed under political agenda of the leadership, those who claim the leadership of that protest. So basically, if another protest is coming on, like I said earlier, there should be wide consultation. People should make input into what the demand should be. The strategies and tactics have to be agreed upon. People should know that they are safe when they go on the streets, not that the brigands will hijack, the protest at some level, and innocent lives will be lost. What happened at the toll gate didn't have to happen. Now, most of those who jump into the lagoon didn't have to jump into the lagoon. Most of those who fell victims of tear gas and whatever the military said they used, wouldn't have done that if it had been well organized in such a way that free flow of traffic didn't have to be obstructed. And the police have to provide...
But the answers you keep making reference to, I mean, before it was eventually hijacked, was pretty much, organized. We saw even food on display. It was, it was properly put together. But let me leave you for a moment, Debo. Let me go to, because you made some...
Let me just tell you this. Let me clear that point you have just made. Protest marches are not concerts. They are not tea party. You have some demand you are making. You don't know who is supplying what you are eating. And that is why when you go to negotiation table, even the so-called tripartite committee, labor leaders don't eat with their oppressors because they could be poisoned. So basically what they did was a jamboree. And jamboree ended the way it was meant to end. So basically, we should plan, we should kind of provide all of those necessities that we will need along the line. Not that we will be on the street because we want to dance, we want to see some celebrities because we want to eat from the donation of some politicians. That is not what they call protest. That is a jamboree. That is like a concert. That is like, what do they call it now? All of these...
Debo, let me leave you for a moment. Let me leave you for a moment. Yeah. Let me go to Mark. Mark, I would like your reaction to some of the things Debo has said, if at all, but particularly of the fact that he made mention of an area. You represent a political party, an opposition, that sometimes some politicians, maybe aggrieved, use situations like this to push personal interest as against the collective good. I would like you to react to that.
That is a perfectly legitimate claim, because we do know that, some politicians would like to take advantage of the situation in the country to probably support or sponsor this kind of thing, for their own personal scheme, not necessarily for the interest of Nigerians. It's not a patriotic intervention. Any protest or mass demonstration that has political connotation loses its credibility ab initio, loses its credibility, because you see, that is politicians attempting to sponsor people to achieve their own agenda that they fail to achieve at the polls. It is possible. So activists must avoid those elements, those political elements. Activists must be able to disaggregate between, achieving the political aim of a person or group of persons and achieving the collective interest of Nigerians. And that should be the purpose and the focus and the vision of any demonstration or protest against bad governance. Like I did say, the people have a right to do that, but it must be well organized in a way. Like you said the other time that the NSAS was hijacked. It is the responsibility of the organizer to ensure that these things are not hijacked. We must ensure there's no way you will go on demonstration. I was a student activist. I know what happened. We protested against the anti-SAP protest of 1989 and so many June 12. And all of that, we know the collateral damage that we suffered. People died in Kenya recently. It's on record that about 50 people were killed by the security forces. 59 remain missing up to today. 628 Kenyans were arbitrarily arrested. And then what did they achieve? Look at it. I will not support any protest that will achieve tokenism as a reward for people who have shed blood, for people who have been in prison, for people who have lost their limbs, for people who have lost their means of livelihood.
Sorry,
There must
Mr.
not
Mark.
be tokenism. In Kenya, what was achieved to me was a token. You know, the cabinet was reshuffled.
You made reference. You made reference to the NSAS, and you talked about it being hijacked. I mean, if we cast our mind back, it seemed pretty much properly organized until that very unfortunate night at the Lekki toll gate, where the army was on ground, and there were shootings, and from there it just went downhill. So my question to you is this: with all of this, particularly with the role of law enforcement, how do you suggest that the role of law enforcement, for instance, can be controlled such that it doesn't trigger other unwarranted scenarios like we saw in the NSAS?
Well, I think Comrade Debo outlined some steps that has to be taken, because all these things have their strategic inputs to be made. For instance, if there's a list of demands submitted to the government, submitted to the National Assembly, and then they are giving ultimatum to be able to meet all these demands, then thereafter, all of that time, you are mobilizing Nigerians towards this protest, you are mobilizing Nigerians towards the aims and objectives of this protest, and then the government itself. And unfortunately, all these things, the government is there, they are hearing, they are not taking necessary actions to make sure that they meet some of these demands before the people go on the streets. They have given an ultimatum that they have been talking about this thing for over 2 weeks now. And the government is supposed, by now, a proactive government would have invited the leaders and promoters of this protest to ensure that they have a heart-to-heart, a roundtable discussion, like they did with Labour, the Nigerian Labour Congress, in the areas of salaries and emoluments and the rest of that. They are supposed to do that. So that is where the government itself.
Mark, are you there?
Well, maybe I should chip in.
The financiers of this protest must ensure the safety and security of the people that are going to put on the streets. Because I do not believe we have reached the stage of hitting the street for this protest.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Sorry for interrupting you, Mark, but we are pressed for time. Debo, I'd like to take your final comments on this.
Okay. I wanted to chip in that the mistake that Nigerian youths made during NSAS is what Kenyans are making now. Because when they started, like you said, they started well. And on the second or third day, the government had promised that the 5 demands will be met. 5 for 5. And they achieved that. That would have been the end of it. But they expanded their demand. That is like shifting goalposts in the middle of a football game. That is not right. And that is what is happening in Kenya too. Okay, they have met some of their demands. The tax thing, they withdrew it from the parliament. And they are expanding. They are even saying that their president should go. That is treasonable, because you have to go, you have to change government.
But in 30 seconds, is that enough justification to deploy? Is that enough justification to deploy armed men to open live fire, for instance, on protesters?
It is not justification, but then they do not have to prolong the protest beyond necessary. I mean, once your demands
all right, I'm sorry, but we need to go.
You are supposed to retreat. If they don't retreat, it means that they do not want the problem to be solved.
Thank you so much, Debo. I'm afraid we are pressed for time. We need to go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. Thank you once again for your time.